Well, good morning. The sign said get here whenever, and I took it literally. Did you have a good week in the Lord? I ask y'all that every time I get up here. And it is to make you stop and think, what kind of week did you have? My flesh says I didn't have a good week. Just being honest with you, it does. I mean, when we stand up here, you can tell where God's dealing with us. And I told y'all a while back how I began to chafe at the chastening of the Lord. And He said, would you prefer me to let you just go and be like Esau? That got my attention real quick. Jesus is all the world to me, is He? That's easy to say. But when Monday gets here, it gets bitter. Tuesday gets here, it's more bitter. Wednesday gets here, I'm looking for Friday. Why is that? Why do we wish our bad days away? This is the day that the Lord hath made. The psalmist said, I will rejoice and be glad in it. These are hard things. These are things that when I walked through those doors 9 years ago, I didn't press into. I had little regard for them. And I guess coming to Walker University, that's what's...
Don't you hang out on me. You hang it on that right there.
Yes, sir, brother. Well, that's my point. The gospel was preached here. Not a prosperity gospel, but a gospel of spiritual things. These are spiritual. What is it 1 Corinthians 2:14 says? But the natural man receiveth not. We can turn there real quick if you want. We're going to be in Jonah chapter 4, but the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. And then later in that chapter it says, who can instruct the mind of the Lord? Our dear brother shared that with us a while back, and that just beat the socks off of me. Because I want to tell God how to fix this world. Jesus, when He was before Pilate, said, if this was my kingdom, my servants would fight. I remember not long after we came here, John stood up here in a devotion and said, a good soldier endures hardness, and he don't entangle himself in the affairs of this world. See, our flesh wants to love this world. And Jesus said, love not the world. And so I'm learning that He introduces these trials and tribulations into my life so I don't love this world. And I want to kick at that. I want to fight against that. I want every day to be a Skittles day. Rainbows and gumdrops. I don't want to forget my phone at home when I'm just about here and have to turn all the way back around and go get it. I want to fight against that. But as it's been said from here, and it's true, it's what the Lord has for me. But I don't want that. That's the struggle I have. See, in my mind, I've already got Monday through Friday next week laid out how I'm going to do things. And I have not even consulted with the Master. And so whenever He disrupts my plans, I start kicking out of the rows. I'm that bum lamb. Jonah here in verse 1, and we know what's happened. I look at this and I look at myself in the mirror, and I see how much I don't want what God wants for me. That's been a hard struggle this week. I've had things come up And I'm like, why? But I'm learning to ask that why in a respectful way so that I get the lesson from it. Yes, sir. And maybe just a little sprig of growth here. Because I say I want the Lord to use me. When you ask God to use you, first thing He's going to do is send you to boot camp. Well, that's not what I meant, Lord. We go through life much like there was a wealthy man that he built him a new mansion and he put him a swimming pool in the middle of it. And he invited all his friends and neighbors over to see the mansion, and he called them out back around the swimming pool, and he put salt water in the swimming pool and he filled it with sharks. And he said, I'll pay anybody $1 million that can swim all the way across this pool. That will swim all the way across. There was a splash at the end. This young man swam across that thing at breakneck speed. They pulled him out. He was out of breath. They were all congratulating him for his courage. And they asked him, how he was doing. He said, I just want to know who pushed me. His wife, probably. I'm terrible, y'all. Yeah. He got $1 million out of it. But ain't that the way we are? Great is the reward when I come out on the other side of it. After I've swam with the sharks, unwillingly. Jonah here, it says, but it displeased Jonah exceedingly. And he was what? A little angry? Very angry. It is said that a hot spirit is a high spirit. A hot spirit is a high spirit. I will ascend. I want to be on that throne. I want to be in control. When I turn on the news, I want God to fix this my way. I'm like Jonah here. I'm exceedingly displeased when I turn on the news. God's not doing it my way. I don't think we should roll over and play dead. I think we should pray, because our prayers move that sovereign muscle, don't they? Prayers move God. They don't change Him. They change us. So let's start looking at how we react to things that we can't control, or even things we can control. Say, I don't have problems with the problems I can't solve. I know who to take them to. The problems I think I can solve are the problems that I have problems with. Hello? Hello? The things I've got control of, and guess what? That's what bites me. I was working on something this week for a guy. He'd asked me to put a new plug on it. I shorted it out and blew it up. And I had to call him and tell him $500 at least. And Melissa, tell you, that thing just frustrated me and it devastated me. But the Lord told me, said, that's what I have for you. You didn't do it on purpose. It was to show you that you are not in control. You think you are. But this is the path I have chosen for you. Now, are you going to accept it? Is this the day that the Lord has made, and I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it? Or am I going to be like Jonah? Listen, Jonah here is upset because he was successful in God's will. The whole town had repented. We saw that. Have you ever heard of such? The whole town repented and turned to God, and He's mad about it. Why? His pride, because His own people. Just like when Jesus, last time we looked in Matthew, said the only sign you're going to get is the sign of Jonah, the Jews would have none of Him. Jonah had preached this in his own country, and they would have none of it. He goes over here, and the whole town repents, and he's mad. Because God didn't do it His way. I'll tell you, Brother mentioned last time some of the best vacations he ever had were the unplanned ones. Because guess who planned that for you, brother? These are hard things. It is hard to want what God wants from me. I think John echoed what Brother Barrett said. We like to say, I can't wait to see what God has in store for you. And that has just ruined that for me. I don't say it anymore. Not out of the prosperity gospel context that is spoken in, because he's right. We don't know what happened. Listen, this precious couple who are about to get married, and I have prayed for them more than any couple I have ever prayed for. And that scares me a little bit. I told Jackson the other day, I said, that scares me a little bit, son. I don't know what you're facing. I mean, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but I want him to prepare himself. Remember, study to show thyself approved. When we got married, we didn't know we were going to face the trial of not being able to have kids. Go through that and stand up here and tell the people that God's dealt bountifully with you. Do that. And I can, because he has taught me to. He has taught me to say, even though I was denied that, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. When peace like a river attendeth my way, but on the flip side, when sorrow like sea billows roll, am I going to sit under the gourd and pout because God didn't do it my way? These are spiritual. How am I going to instruct him? Or do I instruct him? We've got a good week ahead of us. I hope so. I hope the Lord does provide. We're going to watch this young couple be united. And I'm tickled to death. But things might not go our way this week. It may rain Saturday. I hope not. Donald says, shut your mouth. I'm about to find out what the Lord has for me again, ain't I? But we don't know. We don't. But I know who does know. I know who knows where we'll be at this weekend. And I struggle to accept that. Just like Jonah here struggled to accept listen, it was God's will. He so fought this that he had to go through a fish's belly to get to Nineveh. That's Clay Wilson right there. That shows how much I want what God has for me. So there's a lesson here. Listen, let's press in. And whenever things just don't go our way, and we've done all we can to stand, like I said, be still. Be still. Listen, this is a short book in the Bible. Jonah's never mentioned again. Because he leaves this chapter hot and bothered about what God had for him and what God did and how God spared Nineveh. Listen, he was cheering on like I do whenever I watch things in the world. He wanted their destruction. Think about that. Supposedly a man of God here wishing these people destroyed. See, that's flesh. That's the natural man not understanding. We want to pin that verse on the lost, but who is that written to? Who is 1 Corinthians 2? Paul is writing that as a letter of instruction to the church at Corinth, the New Testament church, telling them, hey, listen, your natural man ain't going to get this. You're going to have to put your spiritual glasses on if you're going to see this. And you're going to have to accept that this is what God has for us. I hope I've been a blessing and a challenge for you. Make you reflect. My wife will tell you I used to lose my temper at the drop of a hat. And I dropped the hat. Because it was not the day, I did not look at it as it was the day that the Lord has made. And things still get me. Like I said when I messed that up the other night, I didn't even want to sleep because I had to call that guy the next morning. Say, and you know what? He was fine with it. He said, brother, if you hadn't done it, I'd have done it. And I'm like, I wasted all that time fretting and worrying, and the Lord already answered it. Because it was what He had for me. He had this little old church at the end of this dirt road for me. Now, the trial that brought me here wasn't fun. 33 years of marriage for us. God's dealt bountifully with us. I refuse. I'm going to be like Job. I'm not going to charge God foolishly in sin for what He has not done for me. Has God ever done something to you? I'm asking these questions because we're going to face stuff this week. We're going to face trials and tribulations. That's the whole point of my devotion this morning. Is when these things come up that are beyond our control or below our plans, God's pushing you in the pool. Swim. Swim to the other side. Is it fun? I bet when that shark bumps your leg, you're going to swim a little faster. But He deals bountifully with us. God has never wronged me. You think about that. My own family members have wronged me. But Jesus is all the world to me. There is no better friend. I love y'all. I hope I've challenged you. And I do hope we have a good week this week. I'm praying in that direction. And I believe God can answer that prayer, or will. But either way, His will be done, whether we in on it or not. May the Lord bless y'all this morning.